All right, guys, welcome back into another NBA DFS video touching on the 7-game slate. And I say slates because there's the afternoon slate, which is about a 3-game slate, and then we got the evening slate, which is the normal slate. So I am going to be touching on both of the slates in this video, just so you know. I'm going to go through the typical stuff, injury news to start, going over the value report. We're going to get into the ownerships for the afternoon slate and then the lineup process for both the slates. Okay, so shouldn't be that long of a video. It is kind of straightforward as things sit right now, but I just want to give you guys that information before we get into it. If you guys enjoy the coverage, make sure to give a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you see in this video, make sure to click the links in the description below. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So starting out with the injury for the earlier slate, we're looking at Joel Embiid being out, which pretty much just means we do want to be loading up on a decent amount of the Sixers. Okay, that means James Harden is going to be a strong price point play, even at 10K. And yes, he kind of busted a little bit in the previous game, but we know he has the ceiling to really go off. The matchup with Detroit is not something I'm particularly worried about, but really, I think the strongest play is going to be Tobias Harris at 6.7. It is just a strange price point for someone that does have a nice, strong floor. Like this game out of him, 43 fantasy points, was not really fluky. He did shoot the ball 20 times, only 2 for 7 from 3 ball, and he did have 10 rebounds. Like, I guess the double-double, a little bit fluky. You can't really predict that, but at the same time, it's not shocking. And then looking at the game, like maybe it blows out, then Melton would be a decent play. Milton could get to value as well, but Maxey is still a decent play as well. Like all the Sixers players kind of just see a bump in really production. So there are players we can look at. And then looking at the Charlotte side, we know that Kelly Oubre is going to be out and Gordon Hayward is currently doubtful, which then would bump up players like PJ Washington being a decent play. Jaden McDaniels is going to be a good play as well. Then I also like Mason Plumlee a little bit as well. Like those three are all decent plays, kind of given the matchup. That's a game that we want to be targeting, especially if we are doing the early only slate. So that's what I'm looking at there. And now we get into the full slate. Guys, the full slate, there's a lot of slate impacting injury news. Devin Booker, he's out. Okay. And really, we got to get news on Chris Paul. He is someone that destroyed my night a little bit on the 6th because he only played 12 minutes, got injured. So he's out. Campaign's going to be out. And so what does that all mean? If those 3 players are out, who's our lock? Is Dwayne Washington, someone that we've been targeting a little bit, just price point wise, with both Booker and Payne out. Well, if those 3 are all out, Washington averages 44 fantasy points per 36. And look at this. 26 and 26 minutes, 27 points, 1 for 3. Like he would be the go-to play. He would be the play that we want to be targeting, the play that we want to go out of our way to play. And, given the fact that it's a Sunday, it always seems like there's more random injury news. I don't know about you guys, but that's just what it seems like. I could see Washington just being the play pretty much. And they're pretty banged out. And maybe that game's a blowout, but if it's a blowout, he's still going to be the one getting the minute. So that's what I like there. And just looking at guys, so much red here. It's kind of frustrating. Like Mitchell, currently questionable. Okay. Didn't play on Friday. Is he going to play today? We don't really know just yet. If Bam and Tyler Hero sits, we'd be looking at Jimmy Butler. Like he'd be a really good play. And some of the other value that's been out there for the Heat. And this is pretty much my long way of saying, make sure to be in the Discord chat before lock because this is going to be a crazy slate. And it's one that should be a slate in which there's a huge edge. It's a bigger slate, 6-game slate, and people are going to be focused on NFL. Maybe not as much as they were, a couple of weeks ago, but they still will be focused on it, especially when my Green Bay Packers beat the Detroit Lions tonight. Fingers crossed. I just jinxed that. That's not fun. Okay. Well, yeah. Looking at some more though. Clint Capella's still out, so I do think the decent plays for Atlanta Hawks are going to be there with Collins and Nika. Now, this one's kind of big. Steven Adams, currently questionable. He's been someone that's kind of been dominating for the past week or so. If he sits, that's going to open up some value. I think we'd be looking at Jaren Jackson Jr. The minutes should just be solidified if Steven Adams, doesn't play. We begin over 30 minutes. I think we could accurately project him to get over 35 fantasy points. So there's just so much news, guys, that we don't have enough of a poll to say these questionable tags are doubtful or probable. They're all just literally questionable. And I think that's just the nature of it being a Sunday slate. So let's go ahead and I'm going to switch up and get into the value report. So this is just going to be looking at the full slate, all the games. And I'm going to sort by FanDuel value. So right now it's looking like Spencer Dinwiddie on FanDuel is going to be a really good value at 6K. That is a cheap price tag. Let's look at the minutes he's projected to get. 37, would be a good play. Obviously gets a better matchup against OKC. That's a play that I don't mind. And that's just coming at Luka saying that he's probably going to sit today. But once again, it's just kind of a random tidbit, So yes, if we get news that he's sitting, we kind of know exactly what to do. We load up on Christian Wood, just becomes an elite play there at that point, probably expect him to go for over 45, especially going against OKC. Like that would just be a smash spot. Spencer Dinwiddie would be a great play. The player that was just popping up was Jaden Hardy. The last two games, 15 and 21 minutes, 20 DK points in both of those games. So he'd be someone that, we could really be looking at because those minutes would be solidified most likely. So 25 minutes from him, you could really be looking at Spencer Dinwiddie, Hardy, and Christian Wood. And you could easily be getting, let's just say 40 out of Dinwiddie, 40 out of Wood, and then 20 out of Hardy at a very cheap price tag. Like you're halfway or quarter of the way there, a third of the way there to like a profitable lineup. From there, the Clippers, it seems like they're always kind of popping up there, just given the injury situations with them. It does seem like Kawhi is going to play today, though, so gotta wait and see on that. Paul George, if he plays, I feel like that would make the rest of the players just not good play. So something, once again, be in the Discord chat before lock. Houston, Jabari Smith popping up. You can see the price difference there on FanDuel. A little bit cheaper on FanDuel. That's always a good indication of a guy being a little bit underpriced there. I already mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr. would become a very strong play if Steven Adams is out. And Nika is popping up there. All right, let's go ahead and look at DraftKings real quick. So yeah, Jaden Hardy once again. Melton. Yeah, Melton, guys. This is the early slate, but given his price tag, which won't beat off the court, he should still be a good play. So if you are playing the early slate, I think Melton, just kind of given the price tag, should be a good play. Andrew Nembhard as well, a decent play there, 3.9. If you're trying to stack maybe that Indy Charlotte game, which is probably what you should be doing, I don't mind that approach. And we kind of get that. So let's go ahead and get into the projected ownership. All right, so looking at who is pulling in the highest projected ownership, we can see kind of the natural starting point for people today has been Christian Wood. And that's with the expectation that Luke is obviously sitting, which makes sense. And then from there, I'd imagine Dinwiddie. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and just sort by projected ownership because we're not getting much of the lineup process there. So yeah, it's just load up on that Dallas value that would be there. And yeah, you could even toss in Tim Hardaway, should be a safe play as well. Landry Shamet, I don't mind, with Booker, with Payne, and with CP3 out, that would be a terrible play. And you would expect like Aiden to step up as well, but I don't know if we can trust that. Hardy, I would imagine this would be like triple double this. I don't know. Like it seems like a cheap price tag for Hardy, who should be a good value play on this slate. I'm a little bit surprised at Anika's ownership there. Jalen Williams has been a pretty good play. I like Jalen Williams this slate as well, main slate wise. This should be a safe play with the bigs still out for OKC. So let's go ahead and I'll give you guys the FanDuel view, and then we'll be getting into the main slate or the lineup process coverage. Okay, so the starting points are a little bit more spread out for FanDuel. Some people are going a little bit more with Shy, not as much on Christian Wood, but still like they should be. I mean, it's a strong price tag. Laurie Marketing, that is a great price tag there for Laurie. He pretty much established that he should be a 9K play. So you could, he makes a lot of sense. You can play him at small forward as well. That's going to open up a lot. So the strange price tag there. Jimmy Butler becomes a huge play as well if we get news that Tyler Hero and potentially Bam are out. So that's some news that we got to wait on as well. So let's go ahead and get into the lineup process for today. So I kind of already mentioned that, if you are doing that early only slate, I would say that the approach would be to go with stacking this game because one, it's easy. And two, it's a high over and under. So like you could easily go Ball, Rozier, McDaniels, Washington. And I'd want to go both centers, Turner and Plumlee. Then we have about 10K left over. Like, do you want to go Halliburton? We can't make that work. If we did, we'd have to go off of Terry Rozier, which I wouldn't mind the idea of doing that. So let's try that actually. Then we would have to find a cheap shooting guard on this slate. If we could fit Melton in there, I'd love that. I don't think we're going to get a 3K play that we can end up on though. Maybe we do, maybe some news opens up to the point where we can make this work. But yeah, I do want to be stacking this game. I think that's going to be the approach to go with. At the same time, the Sixers players are going to be good as well. Those are going to be good options as well. So maybe we don't force in Halliburton and maybe we go with Tobias Harris because he should be a good play. Then we have 5.3 left over. Like that is a lot of wiggle room, to really make whatever changes we want. If we want to go Ivy, if we want to go Burks, we can. Got to see the news on Benedict Mathurin. If he is out, then yes, Andrew Nembhard becomes a really strong play. And then we'd be figuring out where we want to make our upgrades with this build. So now let's go ahead and switch up and get into the main slate. So main slate wise, what are we going to start with, guys? You can probably guess it. There's really just the Dallas game. It's a game that we should be targeting if Luka sits, and it's a game that we should be targeting if Luka plays, just given the matchup with OKC. I think it's a very strong starting point really today. So let's go ahead and we're going to plug in Spencer Dinwiddie, then we're going to with Hardy at the shooting guard spot. I am not completely sold on Tim Hardaway Jr. as a play tonight. Like I feel like he's priced correctly. If there's one guy that, he could go off, but at the same time, if there's one guy that's only going to hit his floor, it would be Tim Hardaway, still not a terrible play. I'd rather go Jalen Williams. Like if we are going to try to stack this game, Jalen Williams is at a cheap price tag for a guy that's been highly consistent as a fantasy producer. Just with their bigs out for OKC, with Robinson Earl out, we got to get news on Jalen Williams, if he's going to be out or not. Currently questionable, sat out last game, and then Alexei is still out. So yes, if that still occurs, then someone like Jalen Williams would be a good play. I do feel like Kendrick Williams, pretty strong price tag for a cheap value. So if you are trying to stack this game, you could toss him in there. And then we're just going back to Dallas, obviously loading up on Christian Wood, plug him in there. And then guard-wise, let me go back to the model to see which players were good guards. I'm going to go ahead and go with DK Main and look at value. So Reggie Jackson was popping up there. Dort was popping up there. Shamet. So yeah, let's try to target that Phoenix game. I think Washington, for me personally, Dwayne Washington is going to be a good play regardless. So I want to plug him in there. We have a lot of salary now left over to really make whatever lineup approach work that we want. Like to me, Kyrie is still too cheap. Okay. Just been so consistent. And he finally had a bust game, okay? And really, it wasn't a bad game at all. Just didn't score as many points as he has been. That's really all that was. So I still think he's at a cheap price tag. Jimmy Butler, once again, could be a good play. John Collins been getting a ton of minutes. Very consistent fantasy producer with Clint Capella off the court. I feel like he is at a price tag that I feel like is going to be tough to pass up on. Rudy Gobert really had his best game of the year, okay? And really the question with Rudy Gobert is he going to play that well again? Because if he does, then someone like Sengun, who's at a cheap price tag, is someone you don't want to play. If he does not play as well as he has been, then Sengun's a good play. Like Rudy Gobert at this price tag with the upside to go for 50 if he is a little bit back. Like he kind of said he felt like he was back. Like then that's not a cheap or bad play. Jaren Jackson Jr. would be very difficult not to play if we get news that Steve Adams is out. So there's just a lot that we can go with. And really it's going to be like figuring out how to pay up for players on this slate is what it seems like. In this situation, wouldn't have to go with both the Williams. So maybe we just go with Durant. Still have a ton of salary left over to play whoever we want. Could go Desmond Bane, who is popping up a decent amount there. And like, I'd be fine with this. Like, this is a fine first look build. Just kind of show you guys the lineup process for today. It's one in which Hammer Dallas, if Lucas can run it back with some players on OKC. You could even do Shy if you wanted to. And obviously that's an easy pivot to Shy if we need to. And we're good. Like, it's looking like it's kind of a straightforward slate as it sits right now. But once again, it is a Sunday slate. There's going to be a lot of slate changing news. So be in the Discord chat before lock. Link to that. It's in the description below. But that's all we have for you guys for this video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to continue to pump out this NBA content for you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, like and subscribe. All right. Thanks for watching. And as always, good luck.